I don't want to overstate the importance of the growing Donald Trump battle with Fox News, because Trump and Fox News getting along slightly less well, as I've been telling you that they're getting along slightly less well, it doesn't really alter that in the big picture, when you zoom out, Fox carries water for Trump. Most hosts still worship the guy's every word. You've got Hannity, Tucker, Janine Pirro, whatever. Trump might even see the increasing battle that he has with Fox News, really only Shepard Smith and sometimes Chris Wallace and some of the weekend hosts. Trump might even see it as sport and a way to get publicity by attacking Fox. But the reality is that we don't want to overstate the importance of that conflict between Trump and some elements of Fox News, because overall they're still on the same page, and Fox is mostly a pro-Trump propaganda outlet. But the disagreements between Fox and Trump have now spread beyond just Shepard Smith and occasionally Chris Wallace, and once, I believe, Neil Cavuto. Even now, Brett Baer is having reporter John Roberts simply say Donald Trump's bogus Sharpie-altered map of Hurricane Dorian is merely that. It's bogus. It was never part of the original forecast. Now, I already told you in the last story exactly how this map was presented. Donald Trump previously saying Hurricane Dorian was on track to hit Alabama. It wasn't. Trump then tried to retroactively defend that claim by using a Sharpie, not saying he personally did it, but someone did, to make it look as though Alabama was within the reasonable cone or trajectory of that hurricane. Fox News then reported on this, and they didn't fall for it. They said this was a bogus altered map. Take a look.
John, you were in the Oval Office today for that pool spray. This afternoon, the president displaying a hurricane forecast map, but there appeared to be a change made to it. What happened there?
This was following a briefing from Kevin McAleenan, the acting Secretary of Homeland Security, and as well the comment out of the Coast Guard. This is a forecast track that the president held up from last week, where it looked like the hurricane was going to slam into the Florida coast, maybe even cross the peninsula and get into the Gulf of Mexico. You can see somebody with a Sharpie or some other writing instrument added a little bit to the cone of uncertainty, which was not part of the official forecast, which included the Florida Panhandle and parts of Alabama. President Trump had tweeted over the weekend that Alabama appeared to be in the crosshairs. And you could probably extrapolate that if it had continued on that track, Alabama might have been affected, but it was never part of the official forecast. When asked this afternoon how that marking got on the map, the president said he had no idea. Right?
Okay, John Roberts live on the North Lawn. John, thank you.
This is hilarious, but I really want to make an effort to provide the right context for these stories, okay? When it comes to this Fox versus Trump thing. Let me zoom out a little bit. Fox News and even corporate media more broadly are what we call sense-making tools, and they are terrible sense-making tools for society. So when we talk about sense-making and media, this is maybe one of the most important analyses that we can do. And I get it. We started with a Sharpie, but again, I'm making an effort to really provide broader and important context for when we do these media analysis stories. When we talk about the sense-making analysis for media, it goes well beyond the propaganda value of media. We've talked a lot about the propaganda value of media and how media can sort of serve corporate interests or political interests for one party or another party. And you really have to zoom out to understand this. We are an estimated, on this planet, we are an estimated 7.7 billion people, each kind of existing in our little corner of it, only having an awareness of a tiny, tiny fraction each day of what happens on our planet. A nearly infinite, I know that that's not a precise term, nearly infinite, but I think people know what I mean. A nearly infinite number of things takes place every day, depending on how you measure them. Births, deaths, violence, storms, crimes, entrepreneurship, food growing, medicine, technology. Right? I mean, it's like the list doesn't do it justice, because think about everything that goes on our planet in one day. Sense making is giving meaning to what goes on in our world so that we can understand it. Because again, so much happens every day that the mind cannot actually comprehend it. So sense making is giving meaning to things that are going on. And this is actually what corporate media serves on a plate for us. We can't possibly follow every development that takes place on our planet. So what media does is not only do they explain things to us, but they also narrow the scope of what we pay attention to. And by virtue of that, they assign meaning to what areas of life should we be paying attention to. Local news, your 11 p.m. local news, takes everything that happened in the day and it makes sense of the world by picking, it's usually like 5 stories. 1 or 2 are usually about some horrible crime that took place. They give you the weather and then a couple of other stories. And that's how they make sense of the day for you. And as I've talked about countless times about corporate media, there is really no one media outlet, including me. I mean, I'm including myself in this. There is no one media outlet that can really do sense-making justice because there's just too much that happens in the world. So to be an informed person, I've talked about the knowledge pyramid before. Oftentimes when I go in, I talk to at colleges and universities about critical thinking and epistemology, the knowledge pyramid is this thing that you have to build up. And the bottom of the pyramid is critical thinking skills, epistemology skills, learning how to think, learning how to learn. You then build the pyramid further by taking those epistemological skills and you want to gain subject matter knowledge about sociology, culture, physics, math, whatever, right? You get subject matter knowledge. And then at the very top of the pyramid is sort of like what happens day to day. You have to use that entire base of the pyramid to interpret a specific event, to solve a specific math problem, for example. When you think about knowledge this way, Fox News calling Trump out or not calling Trump out really doesn't make a big difference in terms of Fox's bigger picture sense-making capacity. But when we think of the universe in which your average Trumpist is operating, people who don't have the epistemology and critical thinking foundation, people who have not used that foundation because they don't have it to gain subject matter knowledge, for them, their pyramid is truncated. And in those cases, it actually can make a difference that Fox News is saying the Sharpie image was completely bogus. It could pierce someone's echo chamber. It could get someone to rethink their sense-making choices, and it is still a good thing. That is a lot of context, but this is, I think, how we need to be thinking about this very public sort of pseudo battle between Donald Trump and Fox News occasionally saying, what you are saying there isn't true. What Donald Trump said simply doesn't correspond to the facts. And I think that if we want to be informed news consumers and really be thinking about these things more broadly, it's fun to watch Shep Smith say Trump's a liar, but we want to actually understand the context. And in the context, for an audience that is so lacking that critical thinking pyramid and the subject matter knowledge, it could actually get them to say, you know what, maybe this guy is a liar and I shouldn't support him in 2020. And to that extent, I think it's great. Let's just not pretend that Fox News is not still 95% carrying water for Donald Trump and effectively functioning as state media.